Hello everyone and welcome to the Hydrogen Vacuum channel. Today I just wanted to briefly talk about moving and storing complex and simple data values in 1.16. So to start off with, we're just going to briefly go over a couple concepts. If I grab these redstone blocks and pull out this command right here, clear at p redstone block 0, the max count of this command is 0, and run it, you'll see that it says found 448 matching items. So this command right here will not clear any items from my inventory, but it will tell me how many items of that type I have. And you can specify custom tags, here if you wanted to see how many of like a specific type, right? But we'll get into more complicated stuff in a second. So, anyways, that's how you detect any amount of a specific item in your inventory or in a player's inventory. The next thing we're going to do is I'm going to start by giving myself this stick that has a custom tag, customstick: 1B, right? And I'm just going to briefly show you. There's a command, all of these will be in the description, but this command right here allows me to know if I'm holding the stick, right? It's a very simple detection system that says it says execute if data at p SelectedItem.tag.customstick. So it says basically if this data file path is valid, right? If it returns any value at the end of the file path, then I want you to run this command found. Now the thing is, if I were to give myself this other one here with the customstick: 0b tag, this one right here will not be able to differentiate between the two, right? This is my customstick 0b, and this is 1b. So the question is, what if you want to know if it has a specific value, not just if the tag exists, right? So I've got two commands right here. This one right here is going to detect it'll say custom stick if I have the custom stick is 1b, but not custom stick if I have 0b. And the way this works is basically you can convert this into a different form of NBT paths. If you have like selected item SelectedItem.tag, right? You turn that into colon open brackets tag, right? So it would end up looking like this, custom stick: 1b, right? And this way you can detect if the path traces to a specific value, right? And this doesn't have to be 1b. It could be 1, or it could be some string, right? Doesn't matter. This is much more useful for custom apps that have more complex data stored in the items. So if you have some like number that ticks up inside of this, you can detect if that number reaches a specific value using what I was talking about. Okay, so now let's move on to let's move on to moving and storing actual data values, and let's use some of this in what we've been talking about. So the first thing is we've got this data modify command right here, okay? Which when I run it, I'm going to start by giving myself a couple redstone blocks here, okay? It's going to appear in this chest right here. Oops. As you can see, when I run this command, all of the redstone blocks appear in this chest. Now you might note that they appear in a sort of weird order. That's because of the way that the inventory slots are organized, and I could talk about that in a different video if someone is interested. But if you're interested, and there is actually some drawbacks. If I, let me just pull all of these out. These ones in this row will not be put into this chest. The chest is not big enough to handle the things in this row. It only covers this row, and this row, not this one. So using storage is actually probably a better idea. So I'm just going to get rid of these redstone blocks really quickly. Now, if I want to, that was helpful, but what if I want to differentiate like before between tags, right? So let's say I have this stick right here, right? This is a normal stick. And then I have this other stick here, which has the custom stick: 1b tag. Now, if I want to I want to copy this stick into here, right? I don't want to copy this one. I can use this command, which is a little more complicated, but I'll break it down in a second. And as you can see, voila, I have this stick in here with the 1 tag at the bottom, and I don't have this one. And if I were to copy this over a bunch of times, you'd see that voila, it copies all of them in. Okay, now there's a couple notes that I have to make about this. You might note that I'm using append here instead of set. That's about how Minecraft handles data values, and you have to match the data value type that you're going into with set, but with append it could be one or multiple. It's a little more complicated, and I can go into that into a different video if someone is interested. But for now, you're sort of, I would suggest if it's not working, try swapping append out for set. Now over here, this is where we specify the custom things. You can specify. So I basically say it's in the inventory, right? And then because inventory is an array list, as a list of items, I open brackets here. And then now when I open these curly braces, I'm saying all items that match the values inside of these curly braces, right? So inside the curly braces, I've got tag colon custom stick colon 1b. So if it has the tag custom stick 1b, and I also have specify ID Minecraft colon stick. So it has to be a stick, and it has to have this custom tag right here. So you can play with that as much as you want. Again, this 1b, it could be a 1, it could be some string, it could be really anything you want of the valid Minecraft data types, to be clear. Okay, so let's move on. Now we're going to get into more complex things. So over here, we saw this command right here, which allowed me to tell how many redstone blocks I had, right? But what if I want to know? What if I want to store that value, right? If I just run this command, it says it in the chat, 256, right? But that's not extremely useful if I can't actually make calculations based around that thing. So I've set up a scoreboard math that's on the side, and if I run this command right here, you'll see it stores the value 256, which, as we know, is the number of redstone blocks here in that side value. So this command will be in the description as well. Basically, there's this new execute store, or it's not very new, but execute store allows me to store the result of something in a score. And so I can use that in conjunction with my clear at p redstone block 0 in order to get the number of the amount of one thing that I had, one type of item that's in a player's inventory. I could do this with diamond swords, which you see now it's at 1, and if I just throw a ton in here, now it's going to go up to 17, voila. And let's just get rid of all of that. Okay. So this is useful for moving number values. It's important to note this. You could execute store has some specific limitations, right? If I didn't choose a score and I chose like an entity, right? I wanted to store this in an entity's NBT data, right? It'll ask me to specify the path, right? But then I have a list of options. These are the only data types it supports, and all of these are number types, right? The important two that you really are going to want to know is int is for integers, 1, 2, 3, etc. Double is for like decimal places, like 0.01 or something like that, right? So execute store only works for those two, but as we know, Minecraft has a bunch of other data types. Like for instance, we've got lists, and we've got key value pair lists, and we also have strings. So let's talk about moving those. So this is a more interesting one. So I'm just going to grab a couple random items, right? I haven't planned this at all. As you can see, this chest is empty. This command right here, I don't know, I'm treating this like a magic trick. If I do this, run this command, it'll copy my entire inventory directly in. And once again, if I have seagrass here, it's actually not going to be able to pick that up, right? But if I have like something there, it'll pick that up, right? Okay, so this is also, I should note, this is how you get rid of those items if you want to clear them out. You can copy so long as the data types match, right? Like this is, what I have here is a list of items, and what I have here is a list of items. So if I just copy them directly from here to here, using the data modify command, it doesn't care what the data value is. So you can move things from one place to another without having to care about them using the data modify. So that'll work for very complicated or long extended pieces of data. However, there's one place where it doesn't work, and this is, I think, the most common thing that people want to use. So I'm just going to give myself this old name sort. Okay, so it has a name. Its custom name is currently old name, and I want to give it a different name, which let me just show you what it is. If I do data get entity at s selected item, you can see I've got this tag new name interesting sword, right? And I can get that more specifically by just going like this. it'll show interesting sword. However, it's just a string, right? And if I look at the display, the name right here is actually different. Let me just go into that actually. Display.name. You'll see these are not the same. Interesting, like this string right here is all I want, right? But I can't just do that. So if I want to, I can't just move. If I want to make the interesting sword the name, right? If I want to pull that data and make it the custom name of the item, that's a little more complicated than just using the data modify command. Because if I do just use the data modify command, right? I'm just gonna write that example really quickly. Hopefully this works, right? So I'm grabbing then I'm going to say I'm updating the name set from block items 0.tag.new name, right? If I just copy it over like this, it's going to actually just revert to the original name, Iron Sword. It doesn't even leave the old name. It just reverts to the normal name of the item, because we've actually just corrupted the data. Basically, it can't, like, the data. I'm pretty sure the data is actually there, but it's not able to understand it, right? Oh, it actually just deleted all of the data. That's really interesting. So if we want to actually update this name, then we have to do something a little more complicated, which I've got right here. So I'm just going to run this so you can see that it works first. As you can see, now it says interesting sword. Originally it said old name, now it says interesting sword. So the question is, how did I do that? So the crux of the issue here is, how do we convert a string into the JSON format? And there's actually a way to do that using signs, which is, believe it or not, which is pretty interesting. So if I run this command right here that I've got set up, and it's very long, and I'll leave this command in the description, but I'll link also a generator that will allow you to deal with all of this. You can see I have this block here that now has the name that I want this one to have. And if I do /data get block, get the coordinates, and do text1, you can see that it gives me in JSON format that name, right? So it's converted the string into the proper name, right? So all I need to do now is run a data modify command that will copy that into the place of the name. Voila, and it's been done. And then the final thing is you have to make sure to get rid of the sign, because otherwise it won't work a second time. But the point is, if you copy the data if you have a string, right, and it's stored inside an item or inside storage or anywhere else, and you copy it onto a sign, and it's important you don't use a data modify command, you're actually using a setBlock command, where the sign's text is actually reading the data. And that's very complicated. I don't really understand how to format that, but the generator that I'll link will explain how to do that, or generate those kinds of things. Once the sign reads it, it'll automatically be converted into JSON format, so you can actually you can move it directly from there into the item's name value. Now, the most common, that is the second, or well, maybe it's the most common, but there's another very useful example of how to use that, and that's with health bars right here. So we've got this guy right here, and I want his name, I want it when I punch him to display his health right there, right? So I'm just going to summon him back in again. I've set up this little command right here, which just detects when he's hurt, and if he's hurt, then it's going to set a redstone block here to run this chain of commands. So I'm just going to do this, and as you can see, voila, it's functional. You can see the redstone block activating every time I punch him, and every time that he gets hurt, his health updates. Now let's go into how this is done. It's actually a very similar setup to the previous one. This first command block is just going to make this stone again so that we can run this command over and over again. It would probably be better for you to make this a function, actually, but that's not important. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to store his health in the scoreboard. As you can see, that's the UUID of our sheep, and right there is the number value of his health. Now you might be wondering to yourself, why aren't we just copying his health onto a sign directly? And the interesting thing is that his health is actually stored as a float. And if we just, that might not be helpful to anyone, but if I run this right here, this is what the sheep's new name would look like, right? This command right here, if we just look at it, setting a sign, the rotation is just so it's facing towards us, and it's got the whole name laid out. The only important part is right here. It says NBT health entity at type equals sheep limit equals 1, right? So that's going to translate into 8.0f because in the sheep's data, it's actually stored as a float. So if it takes damage, it can be stored in decimal places and stuff like that. It can be more complex data. And we want that just to look like this. We don't want it to just say 8. We don't want 8.0f, right? So we start by storing it as a scoreboard, which will automatically convert it into an integer, which is useful for us because scoreboards can only store integers. They can't store doubles. So we start by moving it into a scoreboard. And then from there, we run this command right here, which is very similar to the previous command right here, except instead instead of reading from the sheep's NBT data, it's reading from the sheep's score on the scoreboard, right? And this command will of course be in the description, so don't fret. But again, this command was actually pulled from the generator that I used for the previous one. MC Stacker is a really great generator for this sort of tool. So it's going to place that sign right here, and then this is going to read that data from the sign and put it into the sheep's custom name. And that way, it will, and then of course the last couple command blocks are to remove the sign and reset the sheep's score so that you can't see it on the side. As you can see, all very functional. There's quite an unlimited number of uses to this. These are the couple that I came up with. I can think of plenty more, and in some of the custom apps that I'm working on, there are many applications for these tools. If you are interested in seeing more applications or more videos like this, please hit the like button below, obviously, do all the YouTube things, and just, comment any comments. That's kind of what it's there for. Yeah, that's about it. Thanks for watching. I'll see you guys later.